Audi has big plans globally to go fully electric. But it is not just that, it's also about expanding its footprint in the mobility services business. And India forms a big part of this strategy. To know more about how this will pan out for the company, Siddharth Vinayak Patankar headed to Audi's headquarters in Ingolstadt, where he exclusively spoke with Andre Konsbruck, Vice President Sales Overseas Audi AG. And here's what he had to say.
Thank you for joining us. I appreciate the time from you today and also the opportunity to come here and meet with all of you. Let's start straight away by talking about at Audi today. We've come through, as an industry, we've come through the pandemic storm. We've seen the various shortages. There's a lot that's kind of behind us now in a way. What's the big focus for Audi today?
Yeah, I think the big focus, and we never lost it also during the pandemic, I think we always try to use a crisis also as a chance. And despite the fact that, of course, we had the pandemic, then we had also all the consequence of the pandemic with the supply shortage. It didn't prevent us really to think about transformation. We believe that the industry is going to the fastest transformation over the last years, and I think in the upcoming years will be decisive. We will see much more changes in our industries than in the last 30 years, and that's where is our big focus. I think you know that we are really in the midst of our electrification strategy, but also digitalization will play a tremendous role. So the question is, in the past we only built cars. Yeah. In the future, we will be in the battery business, we will be in the digital business, in the data business, and of course we will remain in the car business. So, and that's really a massive transformation. So I think we never lost that focus also during the crisis, and I believe even the crisis accelerated also the need to transform.
The fact that you now have a situation where you're not just a manufacturer, like you said, you are becoming also a provider of services, and some of this is still evolving. I mean, whether it's charging or whether it's ownership models, what is the focus towards getting some of that right, especially because you're also dealing with so many different markets and different kinds of consumers?
Yeah. So, as I said, we were talking about this fast trend of digitalization. I think also the pandemic accelerated the fact that also in consumer behavior we have different expectations now. People really want to be much more online, but also have a seamless offline customer journey. So our focus is really to provide a seamless omni-channel customer experience. Yeah? And I think so he can choose when, what, and how he really want to purchase a car, or maybe even a service in the future. And this needs to be seamless. If he starts at home and comes into the dealership, he shouldn't restart with his customer journey. So we have to picking up where he is and do it seamlessly, really add value then, so that when he comes to see us in the dealership, we have to add that specific value so that he really says, okay, it was worth coming because I got something in addition, I didn't start from scratch. So I think that's really important. And the second topic is, of course, what kind of things will we offer? We are talking about this ecosystem. And I think that's really important. We want to keep the customer in our ecosystem, whether he purchases a car, a service, some accessories, some service maintenance packages, or an extended warranty, but also in the future, mobility services, yeah? Like also charging. Yeah? If you have a charging infrastructure, at least, or we have a cooperation with a provider, so that with his card and his that he doesn't have to use again 10 different cards and really subscription models, but everything would be in the Audi ecosystem. So that's our main focus for the future.
The whole aspect of what you mentioned is basically providing a more seamless experience,
Yes.
Whether it is your own individual technology needs like smartphone integrations, or like you said, the services. How different is that in terms of the pace at which that is happening in markets like, say, Germany versus markets like India?
I think we don't see really a big difference. Of course, due to this high volume potential of Germany, there was always a big focus on the company to first try out and pilot some new stuff in Germany, because you are very close to the market, you get the feedback immediately. But irrespective of that, no, we also encourage markets like India really to develop their own solutions. And we have seen, especially India, that the team at Audi India is really creative and sometimes, to be honest, even faster than what we are doing. Yeah, maybe we don't have this perfect integration of the systems. Yeah, but it works as a local solution for India. It works and it will work, and we are still encouraging to progress. Of course, we try to pick them up and then say, okay, how can we then also make sure that in the future it's really also fully integrated in our systems, also in our data management and databases. But in general, we give freedom now to the markets really to accelerate, because we have to follow the trend and ideally be even ahead of the curve. Yeah.
In markets like India then, given this, what you just mentioned about having that freedom, of course you then can be really creative, like you said, but do you think it's also really helped the fact that digital allows you to move so much quicker than in the past, where implementing things or even approaching consumers or talking to different markets could have been a lot slower or more complicated? Do you think digital really frees you up now?
Yeah, definitely. Because that's how we can really reach a massive amount of people at the same time. And we see that the consumer is driving that behavior anyway, yeah? Because as we already talked about, they already decided to be online, so we have just to follow. So digital really gives us so much more possibilities. And at the end of the day, it's about convenience, yeah? I think we all say time is one of the more precious things, especially for, at least from a premium perspective. I think our consumers are busy and the time is really precious for them. So we need to make sure that we facilitate everything. Every interaction needs to be seamless, but also fast. Really like the several clicks to configure a car, but also only very few clicks at the end of the day, maybe to reserve or purchase a car or any service. And that's what's all about, yeah.
And that also helps bring costs down, I'm guessing, for the entire operation.
At the end of the day, it will bring costs down. Yeah, of course, we still have our retail organization, and that's where we have to. That's why we include them in the entire process, so that they can benefit also from these cost savings. So for us, it's very clear. The retail partner, so the dealerships like we have them today, we will keep them also in the future, and we see a very crucial role also in them, yeah, in this personal interaction that the digital cannot provide, yeah. But, and that's very important, they need also to change the way they operate. For me, it's about moving from a traditional dealership to a more customer experience center. And I talked already about this added value. So they need to understand, where can I add value so that I'm still stay relevant for the customer. Otherwise, customers theoretically can order a car and even be delivered at home. So he might not have a single interaction, maybe later on when he goes to the service. But in the pre-sales and sales phase, theoretically, if he doesn't want to test drive a car, he wouldn't need the dealer. But we believe there is a big added value, but they need to understand it and change the way they operate. Yeah, and the same is also, take the example of a reception counter in a dealership. What's really the point of having a reception counter? I rather have an expert coming with his iPad and doing the same for when you check in the morning for an after sales service. It needs to be fast. Why people don't want to spend hours and hours in a workshop, and then until we set up our 8 systems to check you in. Yeah, this needs to be just one click, maybe a camera already identifying the number plate, and then the entire history comes up, and then you just do a digital signature and it's done. Yeah. So I think we are working on a lot of tools also to facilitate that. We don't need to check the car when it comes in. We can also, with an Audi cam, for example, identify some issues and then be in touch with the customer, showing him the movies. Look, that's wrong with your car, and then he can just tick the box on the website or wherever, and just say, I agree, just do the repairs. The convenience. Yeah, it's very transparent, very trustful, but it's also very convenient. Also, when you come and pick up your car, we don't need to explain you everything. We send you the invoice before. We offer an explanation, but if you don't need it, I think we should just be more tailor-made in everything, because every customer is different, and we should also address these different needs.
So now, of course, I'll ask you the inevitable question, Andre, that I know you would expect from me. the position in India for Audi, also in terms of, last, I think, 2 years, we've seen a sort of reconstruction of that position. But if you go back 2-3 years ago, there were people even asking, will the brand stay in India? Today, it's a very different picture. It's a lot more confidence. What keeps you excited about India, and how do you see the position today?
So I told you already, so I was there from the very beginning, and we were very successful, as you also mentioned. We had a very strong start, but I think because we were also a little bit ahead of the curve, and I think we did big investments, we believed in the market, and people really maybe recognized that, and then they really supported also the brand in the beginning. But then, we faced some issues with a lot of regulations around local production, which made it really difficult for us really to fulfill the criteria. And then we were losing, just also because of new emission regulation, whatever, we were losing one model after the other. So, we had these phases, up and downs, where we had products and we didn't have products. We had local production or we didn't have local production. When you don't have it, you know that you are not really competitive in the market, and our competitors, they still also heavily invested during that time. So, but I think already in 21 we grew by 100%. Now in 22 we will see another 30% growth, and that's despite the fact that we had massive supply restrictions globally. So we could have done even better. But the good thing is we always could convince the board to say India is a strategic market for us. So we have a specific board meeting just for India. And I can assure you that we don't have it for many markets. We have it for the US, for China, of course, and then maybe sometimes for Europe in general. But specific standalone markets, really, we really tackled on India, because we said, well, India, we can only survive if we discuss also, of course, local production, and we need to believe in that market. And now when we look into the latest figures, the stability that we have seen over the last years, I think makes everybody extremely confident. Also all the external consulting companies that we are, of course, also looking at how they see things. I think everybody now starts really to believe in this massive growth story, which we can expect until 2030 for India, so more than 8 trillion GDP, but also a total market over 5 million, a premium market which will exceed 100,000 cars, coming now from 39 maybe this year. So meaning we are seeing tripling, doubling, tripling really the figures. So, and there's a strong belief, and in March we will again go to the board to discuss really how we progress and what are now the investment, and we will discuss, of course, electrification in India, which is the future of Audi, and so we need to decide. And for us, it's clear India will be part and will make that EV transformation, and that's why we need to now to prepare for it, because after 2026 we will not launch a single ICE car anymore, and after 2033 latest we will not sell and deliver a single ICE car anymore, because then the current model range will just run out. So, and that's why we are now looking at every single market to see, can they make that transformation? Do we believe? And then how do we prepare and how do we invest in order to make that also happen and to be part of the big cake which will be available. And we see really a massive potential for EV. So we were analyzing, and also with Audi India, we believe that by 28, 29 latest, we will reach a tipping point in the premium segment. So it means more than 50% of all registrations will be electric. So, and that's that's only 1 or maximum 2 years after Europe. So, and it's far before China for the time being. So, meaning really India is really more at the early adopters. If it happens, they would be really part of this early adopter category. Yeah.
Especially at the premium end of the market. I mean,
yes,
logically it makes sense that that will happen. One of the things that what you just mentioned, which I think everybody always looks at 100,000 as a threshold for the premium or the luxury market, and then hopefully that keeps growing. But when you look at that sort of a picture, then obviously volume starts to sort of feature in your strategy as well. And I understand that it's perhaps more important to also look at profitability and not just blindly look at volume. We've seen that. In fact, we've also seen Audi sort of rejigging some of that in its India strategy. But at what point do you think volume becomes important? The reason I ask this is because we're also going to see the transformation, like you said, towards EV. So it's a little tricky, it's a little catch-22 in terms of how to ensure volume growth and also ensure transformation at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. For us, when you talk, I think you assume also we are talking about investments into local production. Yeah, and then for us, there's always a minimum threshold. Yeah, that you need really to reach in order to make it happen. And we need this sustainability. We need this stability also, because if you make these investments and it goes up and down, you risk to lose a lot of money. Yeah.
And you have the new PPE platform coming, so there's that consideration as well.
So that's, of course, once we decide upon the platform, then we really can decide also between the Volkswagen Group brands, where does it make sense maybe on one platform to localize one platform, because also when you localize then battery suppliers, you want not, they will not use that complexity. That means they will try to localize only one or two batteries, yeah, which can fit on one platform. And that's why, so we need to reach that minimum threshold. So that's really for us relevant. Currently we have for the ICE cars, we have enough capacity really to also sustain and to follow also more growth in the future. We are not at 100% capacity. But we believe that the market will grow. If the market really goes to above 100,000, it's a different story. Yeah? So that means if we all believe that this will happen, that's why we have to make next year really now the decisions about further investments, because then of course we will not have enough capacity, and for sure we didn't decide yet about localization of EV, and because that's a completely new investment. But also here you need a minimum threshold. Currently, we can even introduce 2,500 non-homologated cars, so the e-tron. So we still have some room to grow for the next years. We will most likely homologate some of these electric cars because of the new CO2 regime and the penalty system. So we need them to be officially recognized so that they can also balance a little bit the CO2. But irrespective of homologation, the volume is still low for the time being. I think it will be below 1% this year, a share. Yeah. But we really, as I said, if this happens that by 28, 29 we will be at 50%, it's urgent that we make a decision. Yeah?
So is it also then correct for me to assume that these decisions that you do make, whether it's in terms of localization or even in terms of supplies, they'll always be in conjunction with what's happening with the other group brands? Because that's a synergy that gives you an advantage in a way.
Yeah. Well, it depends. It depends really. If we go more on the PPE platform, Volkswagen would not be part of it. So then it's more because we see the potential for premium really in that segment. So we will first look into what customers really request and what they will ask for. And then, because it makes no sense that I just supply a car because I have some synergies, but there is no big demand for it. The lower I go in the segment, the more price sensitive we become, and then maybe there will be very good offers in the future, also from volume players in that segment. So maybe for us it's the right thing to do, and then we will do it irrespectively. So it's more about what kind of volume potential do we see, and then it's a feasibility study at the end of the day. Yeah.
But you do already, let's say you already have certain scenarios that you're mapping out in terms of saying, hey, if this happens, we quickly do this. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we will work on different scenarios, and we are working already on different scenarios. As I said, because we really, I believe we have to make a decision now, because it always takes time also to prepare all this, and because we are not alone in that game. At the end of the day, we need the suppliers also. So it takes some time, and that's why we are evaluating now how we go, and we are really observing very closely how it develops. We are talking to Audi India, we are talking of course to our dealers, really to understand how it's received and whether there's a huge demand for these cars. Yeah? And then of course a lot will depend on how stable and how much can we rely on government incentives. That's one thing, because you already mentioned, we're seeing some incentives, but nothing compared to Norway or whatever that we see in Europe, where we see the transformation came immediately. Yeah, we have almost 100% electrification now in Norway. Yeah, so, and that's really was driven by governments. And then the second topic, and that's also a decision that we will have to make together with the governments, is about charging infrastructure. We all know that Some people are a little bit still anxious about range and about charging and how they're going to drive their cars in the future and operate them. But we already started in a lot of markets really to make huge investments in charging infrastructure, be it in Europe, but also in the US or now in China. And we also started now in my overseas region really to invest, be it in the Middle East region, Latin America, also in Asia Pacific, yeah. And India, we are also absolutely prepared really to contribute. For me, it should be a common exercise, a common effort that we are doing. We don't lay back and say, well, government, do your job, and then once you do the charging infrastructure, we will come and sell the cars. I think it's a common investment. I think, and we have seen it also with one of our competitors. Also, when Tesla entered the global markets, it was always in combination with a charging infrastructure, and I think that's really key to us. So we will have to discuss this, but we will also need to see some stability, because also consumer needs to understand when he orders a car, will I still get some benefits? And the benefits have massively driven the volume in most markets. Every market which is extremely developed in EV today, it was always linked to government incentives.
This is true, and we still hope that there will be some sort of transformation, at least once you start seeing more electric vehicles on the road. The point about charging and investing in their infrastructure as well is of course very valid, and you're right. I think many manufacturers are also talking about it. Does it become a little more complex or a little more challenging in India, given the size of the country or the diverse policies of the different state governments?
Well, the charging infrastructure is not that much linked. Sometimes, of course, it's nice when you have some incentives, but normally we do it irrespective of that. I think, of course, the country is...
Even power supply issues.
Yeah, the power, exactly. It's more about power supply, it's more about, of course, the size of the country. And then we have to make a clear decision. Do we do really destination charging, where we just say, well, we go into busy shopping malls, where golf clubs or whatever, where people really spend some time and then they charge their car? Or do we focus more on linking one city to each other, and then we're going more on the highways for the long distance? Because there, of course, the anxiety is even bigger. Yeah, for the car, say, can I go from A to B? So because in a city, sometimes it's really not that big of a challenge, because we have to force also home charging, and this needs to go along with it, because that's the most convenient thing. And that's also what we see from a statistical point of view, is that a lot of people maybe use once a week public charging, and for the rest they really they charge at their homes or in their offices. So we need to work on the different areas, so encouraging customers to do it and helping them also to install the charging infrastructure, helping companies, helping these condominiums, really doing agreements with them, then doing destination charging, and then doing also this long distance. Yeah? And we have some experience. I think in the meantime we also work in general. We will never operate these systems, so we will always work with professionals, but we are happy to invest into the chargers, and they do the maintenance, of course, to make sure. And then, of course, we will also make it accessible. I say everything we are doing will always be accessible also to other brands. I think it makes no sense really to say, well, we do a charger and only Audi can charge. Yeah, you can always create benefits, better rates, maybe at some point of time, depending on the infrastructure, some reservation that the thing is blocked because it's reserved by an Audi customer, so you can give some advantages. But I think an infrastructure, you cannot operate it profitably without really making it open it to all the brands. Yeah, and that should also be the philosophy of everybody who is investing, because then we will create really infrastructure, and it will be a win-win. Yeah, we will all benefit from it.
That's true, and we saw that. We saw the example of that at the charging hub, where I was happy to go there and film as well a couple of days ago. But tell me this then, Andre, from your perspective, what's like the ideal situation that should happen, let's say, to make sure that everything that you're projecting or targeting actually comes true? First, let's say from a policy point of view.
Okay, so first of all, we need this macroeconomic stability. So this wealth growing, so this middle income growth that we are seeing, what's it, how do you say, the high net income individuals, yeah. So and the ultra high. So if we see the development over to 1.4 million or 19,000, as we said, from a statistical point of view, that's of course a precondition so that the market grows, because we need just a demand to be there, yeah. And on the other hand, I think the government will need to support. If we talk from EV, so well, if we talk in general, of course, if we really do the market grows to a level of more than 5 million, yeah, the infrastructure in general, irrespective of EV or ICE, of course, needs to be there, because if people are just stuck in traffic, I think they will think about different things. They will maybe also say, well, it's not worth really even owning a car or driving, because it's no fun, and they will look for alternatives. And maybe we're going to have flying taxis in the future. Who knows? Yeah, what will happen? But on the EV side, for sure, this will not go without any incentives, because, as I said, first of all, for the time being, the cars are also more expensive. So that's one thing, yeah. But then there's also this anxiety about charging and everything. So, and people forget about total cost of ownership, which will massively reduce on an electric car. And also, so that means be it in maintenance, but be it also in charge of electricity. So the government needs to provide also the electricity infrastructure, yeah? Not only charging infrastructure. That's something where we are happy to contribute. But do we have the power? Do we have also the high power charging? Because if it can't do the high performance charging, the quick charging, people will not be prepared to wait 5 hours until their car really is fully loaded. That's okay at home, overnight, in the office, yeah, but not when they are traveling. So, and all this, so we need this power supply at the end of the day, and that's where we would definitely need the government to believe in the story, and also in this sustainability story, because I think there's a big ESG aspect, of course, of electrification. Otherwise, it's not just for the sake of driving EV and that it's an enjoyable car to drive, but at the end, we are all doing this also because we want a more sustainable world. Yeah.
What can you look at from the point of, or your consumer, what can they look at from the point of view of your ICE models? Because in the Indian context, because of this confusion that's going to continue for some time about, do I switch to EV or not? And I understand that it's perhaps easier or a little more thinkable for a premium customer to do that. But while that confusion persists, there are going to be many people coming to you for ICE models for the foreseeable future. How do you keep them excited?
Yeah, I think I can really promise them that they can look forward to what we're going to offer. So for us, there's always an ambition that we will develop both portfolios in parallel. And we said we will launch the last car by 2026, meaning also now over the next 3 to 4 years, we will still launch a full portfolio of ICE cars. Yeah? And then they will last until 2033. So that means we will duplicate really our portfolio, and we have the same attention of ICE. Our ambition is to develop the best ICEs we ever had in our portfolio, be it from a design point of view, but of course also from a technology point of view, emission point of view. So I think even our RS models will be our performance cars, will be a mix in the transition phase, will be ICE cars with a plug-in technology. But in parallel, also all our electric cars will also have an RS model. So it means you see a full complexity. We have a duplication of our portfolio in this transition phase until 2030 plus. And then, of course, we will switch completely to EV. Yes, we are putting a lot of attention also on EV because these cars, as I said, offer us new possibilities in interior design. And we have to learn every day because the technology is still evolving and getting better every day. Yeah, but the ICE cars, that's where we have our knowledge, and that's I think where I can promise you will see some nice cars coming up.
I'm very excited to hear that. As you can imagine, that's obviously something that gets my attention. In that context, do you think, and also because of what's happening in the market with some of the competition, even in the mass space or even in the premium space, suddenly India is waking up to hybrid. I mean, it's not something that we ever really cared for all these years when it was big everywhere else. Do you see any potential or any possibility of exploring that space at all in these next 5-6 years?
I think as a transition technology, and that's how I need to call it, yeah, I think there will always be some potential. It always depends also. We have seen hybrids coming very strong in Europe, or for example in Germany, because it was really heavily subsidized. It was treated in the same way from a tax perspective than a fully electric car. Yeah. To be honest, if you don't have this benefit,
It's not worth it to the consumer.
to the consumer, I would not really see where it's really worth, because yes, of course, it's already more sustainable. Yes, the CO2 emission is lower in average when you look at it, but also on the other hand, but only if you really then charge. And the tendency is that how many people really always charge the car if they know that they can also drive the car without charging, and then you are carrying just additional weight in your car, and where I don't believe really that you have a big benefit. So it was a very important transition technology, also to learn into electrification, to get people and consumers also used, and also to that driving feeling. We still use it, for example, also in the future in the RS models. This electric engine can give you a boost, which will increase your Newton meter, so your torque, which is always very impressive, yeah, when the battery is charged. Yeah, but it's I would still see that in transition technology, and if we see that the market is ready for EV, I would rather focus on EV before trying now to homologate a couple of plug-in hybrid cars for the market. So it depends on the volume. We will look at it, and if Audi India says, well, we need it, and our dealers say we need it, then we have a portfolio of plug-in hybrid cars. Then we will see whether we can homologate them for India. But I would rather go the next step immediately and focus more on our EV cars.
And that intent is quite clear. I mean, the number of models you've already launched, the kind of aggressive rollout we've seen of those models, and the strategy as well has been very, very publicly announced. So yeah, that makes sense. And
but the IC cars, all the new generation that we just talked about, will always have also plug-in technology also included. So of course we will never launch again a new model just with pure ICE technology. We will always have also a combination that we will offer, but on the other hand then we have the full electric, and so it's about the readiness of the market.
And in any case, what I was referring to about this sudden trend in India right now, it's more to do with conventional hybrid, not even plug-in anyway, which is kind of like yesterday's technology if you think about it. All right, so Andre, one last thing then I want to ask you is about your outlook and your ambition for where India should go on the Audi map, because typically whenever we have this sort of a question, I know everybody says that, look, we'd rather be admired as a company and we want our customers to see value and be happy and love the products, and then volume, etc. will follow, or profitability will follow. And I respect that. But considering that you do have this huge transition, there's so much riding on what's going to happen in terms of this big change at your company, do you have aggressive targets for India?
Yeah, we will discuss now the aggressive targets based on the new premises of macroeconomic premises that we just received. Yeah, I think we started to discuss this 6 months ago. We are now including these already in our, also the market growth will be included in our planning premises now when we do the next planning round. And then of course we will also discuss aggressive target. But when we're talking aggressive targets, again, I need to repeat it, even if you already mentioned it, still, profitable, sustainable growth is really important for us. We have seen some up and downs also for our investors, for dealers. So dealer profitability, it's really important that everybody is happy, because at the end of the day, we don't get customer satisfaction if not all the involved parties really benefit from our business model. So we need a sustainable business model at the end of the day. But of course, and the volume for us will follow the market growth. So for sure, if you really want to hear a figure, I think that the years around 2030, why not really getting something around 30,000 units also for a brand like Audi? Yeah? If you have the right portfolio, the right price positioning, and if the market develops as it is, with also the premium segment develops around a level to between 100 and 120,000 units, for sure we will not accept just to be with a share of 10% or less. We will definitely then aspire for a higher share, because we have the right portfolio, we have the right brand strengths, we have a lot of KPIs where we can tick the box today. The brand is still very strong in India, so it's just the volume which is lacking, which was mainly related to product. So if the product portfolio comes, there is no reason that Balbia will get an aggressive target.
So when you say bigger share, is it important to be number one?
No. I think also during the pandemic, I think everybody has seen that if you do the business in a sustainable way, you look at your cost, you look at also how you do business in terms of how much tactical you spend and how much you really invest. You can see that you can also, despite the fact that you're losing a lot of volume, you can do record years. Yeah, and the same applies to our dealers. Yeah, even in this very constrained supply year now, we will have a really solid profit situation. Yeah, and I think that's much more relevant to all parties. The number one at any price. No, if we can make it, of course, I would never. I would always go for it. Yeah. But again, it needs to be in a sustainable, profitable way. If we can do it and make money, and not only us, but really everybody in this value chain, of course we will then aim for number one. But that's not really that we are every day talking about number one, number one, number one. I think these times are gone. But that I agree with you, 10, 15 years, everybody was just aspiring for that. But I think I will not mention names, but you read also in the press that some other manufacturers also already withdraw from that policy. It's more about sustainable, profitable business model. I think that's and that's also how you would run your own business at the end of the day. Yeah, market leader, but without making money makes no real sense.
That makes sense, absolutely. And looks like you've got lots on the plate for India and lots to keep Balbir and his team busy.
Yes.
Which is good news for us because we have lots to look forward to then. But Andre, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
It was a pleasure for me. Thank you very much.